Welcome back, everybody. This is Phil Ferguson, and this is another fine segment, edition, episode, whatever, of the Phil Ferguson Show. And today I am talking to David Gerard, and he has a YouTube channel called Pivot to AI, where he is delivering information and updates about AI, everything to do with AI, literally every day. And they're like 5, 10 minute chunks, which I love because I don't want that kind of commitment in my life. But they're there every day. So if you want to hear about AI news and possible problems with AI, you can do that. But of course, in the past, he's talked about other subjects. And one of them I want to touch on today is crypto. Regular listeners will know I address this subject from time to time. But David, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So how long have you had this YouTube channel, Pivot to AI?
I started it like a couple of months ago.
Okay.
I started the Pivot to AI blog, actually started last year. I was with my friend Amy Caster, who was also a cryptocurrency journalist. She's retired now. She's decided she's sick of this stuff.
Yeah,
But
I can relate.
basically, we spent years covering crypto.
Yeah,
And then we realized the new AI hype was starting because crypto was a bit dead in 2023, 24. And then we realized it wasn't just people saying the same sort of promotional words about AI. It was literally the same guys,
yeah,
like Mark Andreessens and so on of the world. The VCs immediately pivoted. So we did a post called Pivot to AI, Crypto Collapse, Get In Loser, we're pivoting to AI. And we did a whole thing on rundown on AI. And then we did another one. And then we decided around mid 2024. Now, crypto was about dead at the time.
yeah,
Like, it existed, but there was no action.
yeah,
And prices were high, but with no actual volume, which is something I'll get to. Um, there was nothing happening. So we thought, we're really bored with crypto.
yeah,
Let's do an AI blog. The idea was like Web3 is going great, Molly White's blog, but it's AI.
yeah,
So just a little short post every day making fun of a stupid AI bubble thing. Like the actual technologies, we talked about them. I talk about them still. They're important to know, but they're actually not the point. The
right.
point is to have a tech bubble, right? LLMs are interesting machines. They're amazing toys to play with. They're not actually anything like as useful as they're painted, and they're being forced into everything because of the demands of a economic bubble being run so venture capitalists have something to invest in. It doesn't matter that it's LLMs. If they could have done it with ELIZA chatbots from the 1960s, they would have done it with that. We'd have
Now you threw out a three-letter acronym there that I wasn't quite catching. It was it LLM, LRM?
LLM, large language model, which is
Okay.
the chatbot sort of
Yeah, yeah.
AI thing.
I just wanted to make
Sorry.
sure that my listeners and me, quite frankly,
Of course,
were 100% sure.
I'll turn down the jargon a few steps.
Yeah, well, I do that all the time with investments. I'll forget that there's shortcuts that we all use in the biz, but that may not be helpful for the average listener, which is what we're here for. I'm pretty sure you
De-jargonizing is the bane of my life.
know. You mentioned that you have activity in the past about crypto, and of course, I want to touch on that. So I'm getting the impression you're not a big advocate for cryptocurrency.
Funnily enough, not.
No, okay,
I wrote a book called Attack of the 50-Foot Blockchain, which I've got here,
nice, very well done,
which
sir.
is that came out in 2017. It was self-published, but it was a huge hit, the sort of self-published hit that doesn't happen, but it happened for me
Yeah.
because it was the only critical book at the time in 2017.
Well,
So it took off.
I did my first two back-to-back segments. I think the week before Christmas in 2017, because I started having people hit me up. You don't know me particularly well, but I do financial planning, financial advice, and I would have friends, social media friends, that would tell me that if I don't put 10% of my clients' money in cryptocurrency, that I am not meeting my fiduciary obligation for diversification. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? So um, I had to start learning about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And everywhere I went, 99% of it was just blowing smoke up people's ass and saying how great it was. And I was like,
Yes, that's correct.
I would have loved to had the book at that time. And so I kind of had to figure out, what is crypto? And I watched a couple of your videos on this subject specifically. And you mentioned one of the things I'm loving. You just already dropped the low volume problems, but the entire crypto market, there's 10, 15, 20,000 theoretically cryptos that have existed at one point or another that may still be out there on the list. But Bitcoin keeps becoming a larger and larger percentage of the entire asset class. What what does that mean, and why is that a problem?
So that's a good question. In terms of percentage of asset class, it having a pile of Bitcoin sitting there, there's talk like, oh, it has a market cap of $1 trillion.
Hmm.
That's a made up imaginary number for headlines. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't tell you any use. The market cap of a crypto does not tell you useful information because it's not a market cap in the sense of, say, a stock or something. If you say Apple has a market cap of $5 trillion, that means that, well, if you came along with $5 trillion, you couldn't buy it, the price would go up. But you're in the same order of magnitude. It's a meaningful number in some sense. With a cryptocurrency, that doesn't mean anything because the only interface a crypto has to dollars is when you trade it for dollars, and that requires someone who wants to buy it for you for dollars.
Right.
So it's market cap as a marketing number. It does not mean things. It sort of is meaning things increasingly now with the rise of the crypto holding companies, where you get a corporation and you just put a pile of money into more Bitcoin than it could ever realize as dollars, because there just aren't the buyers with that many dollars
Right.
anywhere and never have been. But they say, oh, yes, we've got a book value of, we have a large number with a dollar sign in front, and that's what our Bitcoins are worth.
And I
That's
can't
because
remember.
they use mark to market instead of realizable value, because mark to market's a much bigger number.
I can't remember the name of the company, and I don't know it matters, but if it comes to you, shout it out. But you're talking about a company that was doing something else and struggling to get by, like a lot of companies do. And they did a new share offering and announced that they were going to buy Bitcoin with all the money that came in. And now basically 90 to 99% of this company's valuation is based on the fact that it owns Bitcoin and maybe other cryptocurrencies. And so buying shares of this company, you're essentially buying cryptocurrency or Bitcoin specifically without any possible risks and problems of buying Bitcoin on a trading platform, unless this company goes down the toilet for fraud or abuse or some weird thing. But they've also leveraged. So it's not just the risk of Bitcoin, it's the risk of Bitcoin times 10. And I just find it absolutely staggering. And obviously, all of this stuff points to the sign that we have a bubble. And the question is, does it burst? Will it burst? Will it bounce back? You know, I don't know the
It's
future.
a weird thing. Is it a bubble? Is actually a good question, because I don't think it's a conventional economic asset bubble,
Yeah, no,
because
and it's more like a
the
tulip
retail
bulb.
suckers are not interested.
Yeah, yeah, it's more of a tulip bulb. Uh,
It's a sort of rich guy's excuse to throw our numbers. It's speculation. It's like meme stock trading for rich guys.
yes,
Um, I think the first of these companies that did this was MicroStrategy, now called
yes,
Strategy, which was a moribund software company that they still sell the software. It's like business intelligence software. It's like Power BI, but not as good. And they basically went all in on Bitcoin. And you could say this was grossly irresponsible, but the stock price went up, so therefore it must be good.
yeah.
And it's like a whole pile of people tried to duplicate this. And Matt Levine, I assume that you and everyone who listens here reads Matt Levine every day, like normal people do. But he goes on about this lately. He can't believe he's just spent the last 3 months boggling at things, 5, 6 months boggling at everything that's happening, and occasionally saying, "Well, I guess crime is legal now." And
Yeah.
it's these companies just their value is a pile of bitcoins they couldn't possibly sell. The people who buy the shares have no access to the bitcoins because they're company resources.
Right.
Um, it's completely stupid. And why would you do that to get Bitcoin exposure? Because if you really want Bitcoin exposure, Like, I don't recommend anyone getting into Bitcoin. If you do want to get into Bitcoin, buy a Bitcoin ETF.
Yes.
You know, it's a regulated instrument supplied by real companies that aren't run by clowns. If you try to withdraw, they won't suddenly shut down and have unexpected maintenance like all the crypto exchanges do. And basically, you lose all the problems of dealing with frickin' cryptocurrency, which is a pain in the backside. Totally a pain in the backside. Crypto is such a nuisance to actually touch in any way.
Do you know what
So buy an ETF if you must.
the newest entry into this foray, a publicly traded U.S. company that is now buying Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies to try to create the success that strategy has? Do you know who did that just recently?
Trump, the
Trump.
Trump company.
The Trump company, which
And
doesn't do anything, or at least doesn't make enough money to cover what they're doing, took a whole bunch of the cash, issued new stocks, preferred bonds, borrowed money, leveraged, and bought millions, hundreds of millions. I don't think it was billions, was it? Of cryptocurrency, and their valuations did not go up like strategy did.
no, Matt Levine marked him as the first one to fail because
Yeah.
he put it to they'd already done the meme stocking where people are buying in for stupid reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always wondered at this. I've been wondering at this lately. So I said retail trading's down. This is how we know it's not a conventional asset bubble because it's just not. You don't have normal people on the street talking about their Ethereum portfolio like they were in 2021. Retail trading on Coinbase is a number they have to break out, and they tell the SEC. So we'll assume in the first instance they're not just lying. We
Yeah.
assume they're bright enough not to lie to the SEC. So that's down 17%. It didn't go up with the president's endorsement. It went down. Volumes went down. And it's like, why is that happening? What's going on? Is what happened? See, the thing is that there's a certain percentage of the populace who really want to be suckers. They go looking for scams to get into because they are sure that they can get rich quick if they find the right scam. And they loved Bitcoin and crypto and all that stuff. These are the people who go to Coinbase, they put their money into Ether, and they go from that to other coins, and it's all very, very stupid. And then they lose all their money and they disappear. But these guys aren't showing up. And I'm wondering where we have a sucker. There is a rube and fool gap. What's happening?
Yeah, because at some point, one would imagine, if you run out of the greater fools, as theory
Yeah.
would suggest, then you get the opposite response where some people start getting out while the getting's good. You get a run, and the things collapse, but they haven't yet, and that's what still boggles my mind because honestly, 7 years ago when I started talking about this subject, I thought it was so comically stupid then that everyone would figure out very quickly. And that was when Bitcoin was 25,000.
I give away these little stickers that say it can't be that stupid. You must be explaining it wrong with a
Yeah,
Bitcoin logo in the middle. But
it's
yeah,
it's absolutely amazing, and it's come to my attention. And when anything gets super hot, super trendy, super sexy, this has always been a problem for me. I don't want to do it. I
correct.
want to not do it out of spite. I want to not do it just because everybody else is. And the new whiz bang thing that everybody's doing, which is what you're focusing on now. So I want to make sure that, the crypto thing, you're still touching on it from time to time, but your big thing now.
It looks like I'm being. I thought I got out and they pulled me back in.
Yeah, yeah, because it's so much fun to talk about from time to time. I could understand weekly or daily not wanting to do it because I don't want to do it. Um, but AI, you've noticed the connection that I've seen, and I saw this with crypto, that a lot of the big players in crypto were people who were legally prohibited from stock pump and dumps. And a lot of them had either threats of jail time or huge financial penalties. Their businesses were closed down. They were prohibited from doing stock. And they took those skills, if I can call them, of promotion and marketing, and applied it to crypto because the rules weren't established yet, or no one's enforcing them. And I think we're still in that world today. But
We're very much back in that world.
yeah,
The SEC has basically is run by crypto bros now. So
Yeah.
it's not 2024, it's 2025. Things are different now.
It's 1984 is what it is. Yeah. Um,
But I think a lot of things as well. The markets, crypto markets are largely unregulated. Like you can make all the laws in the US you want, but
right.
the action is not on the US exchanges. This is a very important point. The Bitcoin price is basically fake.
Yeah.
I say this because the Bitcoin price is set on the large offshore unregulated exchanges. Like they are where the largest trading volume is. That's where all the volume is. And the volume is what sets the price discovery and sets the price of Bitcoin. And they're not trading in dollars because those exchanges cannot get actual US dollars. They trade in various stable coins, Tether and its even less reputable friends, which are the stable coins are usefully thought of, I think, of as wildcat banks, 19th century style,
Yeah.
right down to the bit where the backing gold is actually a barrel of nails and glass. But they so they get lots of dubious stable coins, many of which we literally know are created out of thin air, um, and they buy bitcoins with them. The price goes up. If it goes up too far, they have to be careful of driving up too far because then these suckers try to cash out and the price goes down again because there's no volume.
Yeah.
So if you sell $1,000 of Bitcoin, you can do that fine. If you sell a million, you're going to knock the price down.
Yeah. It'll get noticed. And
Hmm.
so the things I've looked at in the past is virtually every claim, particularly it's specific to Bitcoin, that was promised is false. The idea that it would be broadly diversified across the entire world, it's more concentrated than almost any stock, and a handful of players, probably Chinese and or Russian. Um, it's easy to
Yep.
trade. It's not. It's super secret. They can't track you. They can. It's hard, but when it's been
Yeah.
involved with child porn, child rape, governments around the world have worked together and cracked these people in part because they got sloppy because they thought they were super secret safe. So
A lot of these people are very, very stupid. That's an
yeah,
important point.
yeah. But crypto, we could probably talk all day. So if you don't mind, and I think you'll want me to pivot to AI. What the fuck is going on there? And I think just a few hours ago, you had an episode about video games and graphics and art and artists.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit about that, and then kind of wander wherever you want to with the idea of AI.
So broadly, what happened was they needed another bubble. Crypto didn't work out. Web3 did not work out. The metaverse never got
No,
started.
yes,
They needed another bubble. Now, the actual MacGuffin doesn't matter. What matters is bubblenomics because venture capital is addicted to lottery level wins. You don't just start a conventional business and sell things that are useful for money. No, no, you've got to have a lottery win. And so they wanted a lottery win. So their mate, Sam Altman, who's been a Silicon Valley VC guy for many years,
yeah,
um, he had OpenAI, which had been going a while and has some weird corporate structure that's basic. Basically, when you see a corporate structure like that, you go, I don't know what the scam is, but that's a scam, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And it's a non-profit that owns a huge for-profit, and the for-profit is very clearly a gigantic tail wagging a tiny dog. And so Sam runs a non-profit. So Sam Altman was doing his increasingly better large language models, LLMs, his chatbots, GPT, then GPT-2. Then he had GPT-3, and that really impressed a lot of people. So, including his own friends who were horrified when, oh my God, the AI is going to take over from humans
right,
because it could write better than they did, which is not a high bar.
yeah,
So then he wrapped that up as a little chatbot interface, and that became ChatGPT, released in late 2022, and that was a hit. I mean, I will rant about AI, generative AI for ages, but it is very technically impressive. We have a computer you can talk to, and it talks back. That is amazing.
yes,
The mathematics, the computer science is interesting. It's genuinely very cool, fun stuff to play with. But of course, that's not the problem. The problem is that it's a sort of cancerous financial plague upon the world in many ways, which I go on about on the site. It's like they really wanted a bubble, and this looked like a bubble. And Sam Altman dived in for all it was worth. He has his company burns money faster than anything. There is no path to profit. There is no path to good products. There's none of that. And he has to take in tens of billions of dollars a year to set on fire.
Right.
And I would recommend the blog of Ed Zitron. He's actually a PR guy. Actually, that's his day job. But he started blogging about this stuff and went, I don't understand this stuff. And he started going through numbers and went, this is really stupid. He blogged about it and it was a hit. And he's just a guy who writes coherently a blog where he actually looks up the damn numbers. And that turns out to be what I did to become a noted expert with a Wikipedia article. So it's pretty cool. But Ed's done all the numbers he possibly can on OpenAI, and he wonders how they'll last another year. They would need to get more venture capital than has ever been deployed before. And he doesn't think it's possible. Never say never, because stupid things happen every day. But,
the companies that
really
are investing
big stupid things
in AI, and I'm not saying the large language model is without value, but there's gotta be some limit.
The tech is irrelevant. The fact of what's going on is there's a lot of people who are the large language models, the chatbots, are very impressive tech demos. Like, some people see these things, I think it's the most amazing thing they've ever seen. It's the quintessence of artificial intelligence since 1955 has been the impressive demo.
Right.
You come up with something that really impresses people, and then you spend all the money and you can't quite turn it into a reliable product. So with chatbots, they are really impressive. They do interesting things. They're fun to play with. And they're also lying machines. They don't understand truth or falsity. Facts are not a data type. It's just literally word fragment frequencies. So
Right.
they make stuff up. And they can't tell truth from falsity, so they will confabulate. It's like bullshit academically defined.
I
Speech with no regard for truth or falsity.
I
It
haven't
is very convincing.
I haven't seen it lately, but I over the years, last year or two, I've had a few Facebook posts that got some traction, went a teeny bit viral. Yeah, and Facebook, at least for a while, maybe I just haven't gotten to the point where they are interested in me, would do an AI summary of my post. And let's say I'm talking about the age of the Earth, and it'll say some scientists think the Earth is really old, and some scientists think that it's really young, and then they'll pull bullet points, argument points from rational thinking humans, and then they'll pull random bullet points from psychotic religious people that think the Earth is literally 4 or 5 thousand years old, and it will just present that as on a scale of a teeter-totter that wow, there's two sides to this argument. So there's no thinking going on. It's just pulling information to summarize what's
Yes.
happening without any understanding that some information has a higher reliability than other information.
Yeah.
That's
When
that's
it
a real
comes up
buzz.
with correct information, that's because it happens to have more correct information
Yes.
in the great big pile of stuff it was trained on.
Yes.
And then you're lucky.
And,
And sometimes they can train it on more stuff where it eliminates particular classes of problems, or they'll bolt on a module to do arithmetic because it's really bad. We've invented a computer that can't do maths.
yeah.
And it's,
Have you seen it play chess
yeah,
where it
it,
invents moves and replaces pieces to win?
it's amazing. It doesn't maintain long conversation. Most large language models don't maintain long conversations very well at all. This is what I mean. There's all sorts of fascinating stuff there, but it's being sold as a product when it's not a product. It doesn't work very well. And but some people love it. I mean, it has, I'm going to be really positive here. LLMs, they're useful for some things.
Yes.
Like, they're pretty good at translating. Now, that shouldn't be surprising because, to get technical, the LLM is based on the transformer model, which was invented by Google Translate to do translation. So LLMs do pretty good translation. Chatbots do okay translation. They will also confabulate. They will also make things up. But you could never trust machine translation before. If it's two very large languages, it'll do an okay job. So that's good. I know people who are not confident in their English as a second language and they use it for grammar checking. I'm suspicious of that, but there's, I mean, I personally would prefer inexact grammar with accurate thoughts,
Yeah.
but there is a lot of discrimination against people for having inexact grammar. So I can see why they do it and use it to
Yeah.
polish it up. And they risk having it reverse meanings and so on, which it
Yeah.
happily does, because as long as the words are in the right shape.
Yeah.
So
It's fascinating stuff. So what's next? Are we just going to have a couple more years of this and some new thing take its place, or is this going to implode?
I think they're going to keep trying to fine tune them to do stuff, because the thing is that the output of any large language model, this is a fairly common result. It depends basically on its training material. Now, we've already put the whole internet into these things.
Right.
There's a collection called the Common Crawl, which is a huge database, which is basically a crawl of the entire web, and they update it every few months. That's a charity doing this for researchers to use, but all the AI guys also got it. They also gather books and web pages from anywhere they can. Like Facebook is currently in court, having trained on the entirety of LibGen, which is the huge pirate site for books, and they put in everything they can as training material, but they've run out. They've got the whole internet in there, and
Yeah.
this is how well they do. We're at the stage where trying to get better performance out of these things, more reliable performance, it's takes exponentially more time for slight linear improvements. This stuff doesn't scale. In the meantime, it's consuming ever increasing amounts of power.
Yeah. I was going to bring that
It's
up actually.
it's
Another
outdone
similarity.
Bitcoin in
That,
terms of power
yeah.
use.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's ridiculous. They're building data centers everywhere they can. They're Elon Musk's Grok AI. They've set up gas turbines outside the data center to fuel it. So it's pumping out smog across South Memphis. They're talking about restarting nuclear reactors just to run AI data centers. It's absolutely, it's sort of like when something financial just goes completely out of control. And
It's funny that
it can't go on, but
you
I don't know
fl-
when it'll break.
yeah, you fully circled back to Elon. One of the thoughts I had in my mind to bring up, and you just reminded me. Uh, of course, Elon bought Twitter, changed it to X, and yes, he put money down or collateral down of Tesla stocks, but he got a lot of other really rich Saudi princes to put in a couple $1 billion each. And after he slashed and burned X, he knows from the inside that it's only worth a fraction of what they paid for it, and he's going to owe some people money, and right, and they're going to want their money back, and so he creates XAI. Is that the and
That's the official company name.
yeah.
Twitter is now part of XAI.
Well, they launched XAI and an open purchase, open stock issue, a new stock issuing. And like you said, there's people who are just looking for ways to throw their money away, and everyone invests in this because Elon is beloved by a generous percentage of the American population, anyway.
It still
Um,
is, yes.
yeah, because we debate whether that was a Nazi salute or not. The one group that is absolutely certain it was a Nazi salute is the Nazis, right? They understand what they saw. But so he launches XAI and brings in billions and billions of dollars and immediately turns around and buys X and pays off everybody that he owed money to, these really wealthy and influential people. And now
I'm
he's
not
got
sure
all
he
this
did.
money from suckers.
To be complex about it, because
Yeah.
this is all a bunch of this is a sort of shell game. He bought X using XAI equity,
Yeah.
which is imaginary money, imaginary paper. So that I don't know if any dollars did anything except for the dollars that went to Morgan Stanley to work out the deal.
Yeah.
And the, I wrote about this as well and did a video. But basically, the people who buy into any Musk company are true believers in his genius.
Right.
And as Matt Levine points out, Musk keeps doing the most stupid things and then making money.
Yeah.
So
No argument there.
And they like that. They like that. So
There's
the
ideas.
guys,
There's
yeah,
ideas that are good there, but no one else is getting the benefit from it. I mean, they're just investing money, and there's high risk. But
yeah. It's like, but XAI is not. The thing is, Twitter was a moribund old company.
yeah,
It had done its IPO. There was no prospect of a lottery win from it. And if he wanted to make it a real business, he'd go back to like centrist sort of Twitter selling ads to the center, which is where the people are.
yeah,
And it would have been normal, but he was a wild, he wanted to push his views and his way of working and his personal preferences. And he doesn't, it's like he didn't realize he was a weird guy.
yeah.
Nothing wrong with being a weird guy. There is something wrong with saying, I'm a weird guy, but everything I like is what it should be.
Yeah,
Yeah, but maybe not.
I think there's
So,
many of us that fit in that category. We just don't have billions of dollars to prove that we're weird and don't know it. Because
oh, what we could do.
oh yes. Uh, Show us the book again, and I know you had a second book. If you have that handy.
This is
And
the first book is Attack of the 50-Foot Blockchain from 2017. It's a bit out of date, but it is about the psychology of get rich quick schemes, which is what Bitcoin is.
yeah,
Crypto and Bitcoin are fundamentally a promise that you can get rich for free.
yeah,
And this has never not been a lie.
yeah.
Everyone who says this is trying to pick your pocket, and this is no exception. The other book was Libra Shrugged. This is about that time Facebook tried starting a cryptocurrency and
Oh
how it
yes.
crashed and burned.
As most
This one,
almost
that
all
one's
have.
2020. And I'm told people who like the first one really like the second one. The second one didn't really take off. It sold a bit over 1,000, which is not failure technically.
Yeah.
I think over 1,000 means it's not a failure. So that's good.
So you made a couple of dollars, and you have the YouTube channel Pivot to AI, and you mentioned the blog. Give me the details on that.
Pivot-to-ai.com. And it's
Excellent
linked in the show notes of every
episode you do.
episode. Basically, every day I pick a story, I write a script, and then I read the script and do the episode. Then I do that with lots of pictures and drop ins and stuff. And then I do a blog post version of that. And also the YouTube audio, I started putting it up as podcast too for people who don't like video. So these days I'm more mindful of making the audio very podcast friendly. So it's cool.
And you happen to
And I've
mention
got
to me
viewers
you're going to be on the telly. Is that what we would say?
on the TV tomorrow. Apparently, I'm being interviewed by NBC, who they want to talk about the state of Bitcoin and the law right now.
Excellent. Well, David, thank you for being on the Phil Ferguson Show. I greatly appreciate you coming here and educating my listeners, viewers.
Yes, so don't get into Bitcoin because you're going to be the sucker if you do. You can totally get rich in crypto, but you probably won't.